Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Growth Path. Today I'm super happy to have a great guest on today. I have Donna Mostrom on. And Donna, I hope I said your name right there, by the way. I didn't ask you before. Did I say it right, Mostrom? There you
Yes.
go. Happy
Yes.
days. Happy days. Let me give you a bit of background on Donna. So Donna has been wearing many hats over the years, having worked at many Fortune 500 companies in different positions. We just spoke just before we started that both of us actually have a sales background, but she has a particularly large sales background, being an account manager, an account executive, also a purchasing manager at L'Oreal. Then she went into the marketing world and worked a number of marketing gigs before starting at what she does now, which is her own marketing company called Damn Smart Marketing. And she's been there for almost 8 years, so 7 years and 11 months. So coming up on your 8-year anniversary now in 1 month. So I guess in January, right?
Yeah.
So congratulations on that, Donna. That's awesome that you managed to keep it going for 8 years. That's really great. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it hasn't been easy. Lots of pivots.
Yes, that's always the way. But tell me a little bit about Dan Smart Marketing and what you guys do.
So I run this business with my husband. We are content writers. So we run a 2-person shop on all things content writing. People say, well, what do you write? And I say, if it has words, we write it. And we have this unique skill set where our combination, I make Captain Planet jokes for anybody that was born before the 90s that watched
Yes.
Captain Planet. And I'm like, we're basically all 4 of the rings put together to equal some really good content, aka Captain Planet, but we're just 2 people. So it is really nice. And yeah, we work with a lot of tech and finance companies, and we are constantly trying to find ways to help people that may or may not need our services or that they don't know our services. So it's been fun. My husband joined me a year and a half ago. And since then, it's been a real blast. We've really enjoyed it.
Nice. For people that didn't recognize that Captain Planet thing, the references, fire, wind, water, and heart, by the way, is what you were talking about there when you're talking about the 4 rings. When these powers combine. Yeah, so
Glad you got that reference. I made the reference the other day, and somebody was like, yeah, no, I've never heard of that. I said, oh, okay.
Jesus Christ. Who doesn't know? So 90s kids, or
Yes.
either 70s, 60s kids, or 90s kids.
Very true.
Or you know where we're at now? We're at 2000s kids. How terrifying is that?
Where they don't know what an actual rotary telephone, like what it looks like.
So my 8-year-old, we stayed in a place a couple of years ago, and we were staying in an apartment in a ski resort, and there was one of those rotary telephones, and she was like, Dad, what in the name of God is this? And I was like, it's a phone, you know? And she was like, that's not a phone. And I was like, it is. She was like, where's the screen, you know? And I was like, oh God almighty, you know? Yeah. She was younger then. She was only probably 5 then, you know? So like that tells the one thing. But as of late, I've been working with more people that are that bit younger, that were born probably 2000-ish, right? Which is for the first time in my life, people have been calling me old, and I'm like, oh Jesus, like I'm not even 40 yet, and people are like, oh no, you wouldn't get it, your generation wouldn't get it. I'm like,
it's really rough. It is. And I feel I remembered making fun of my dad when he got a smartphone, and he's in his late 70s now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my sister-in-laws are much younger than I am. And one is 21. And she has to tell me the new slang. She has to tell me, she's basically my walking dictionary for like my urban, was it an urban dictionary?
Urban dictionary. Yeah, your urban dictionary. Yeah.
And yes, it makes me feel very old, very old.
It's I get it, but yeah. So I had it recently when I was like training SDRs, you know, like sales development reps, and they're normally quite young as it is, you know. And I was like, all you need to do is just do some LinkedIn voice notes, and they were like, there is no way that I'm putting my voice on something. I was like, why? I was like, because that's not what people do. That's creepy. I was like, ever heard of a cold call? It's like, under no circumstances am I picking up the phone. Like, oh God. And then maybe in your generation, you know, it was a bit different. But I was like, my generation, Jesus Christ. Anyway, I digress. So you mentioned something there that I didn't know that I want to drill into a little bit because I find it interesting. So you work together with your husband.
I do.
That's an interesting one. Now, careful your answer here, and I'm joking, but like, how is that? That like, because myself, I also have my own business, right? My wife and myself have spoken about it for years. Like, hey, would we ever work together? I think I would find it tough, because I find it hard to switch off anyway from work. So like after hours, I'd find it hard to be able to like disconnect from all things where we go out for dinner and talk about what happened at work, and like we just continue a conversation about what to do next or whatever. How do you create a boundary, or do you have any boundaries, or how does that work?
I feel like we don't have any boundaries when it comes to that. Like because we're always solutioning. And I think that we work so well together. We also met in our MBA program and we worked on a team together before we ever dated. So he saw the good, the bad, the ugly. He saw me at my best. He saw me at my worst. And we had the opportunity to really get to know each other and how each other work before we ever got together romantically. And then from that point, like we had taken a writing class together in college, during our MBAs at Arizona State. And then we had talked all the time about businesses. This entrepreneurship was something that we really, really liked. And we said that our goal was to always work together. And we also have really complementary personalities. I'm an extrovert, he's an introvert. He's quieter, he's much more logical. I'm an external processor. So I think out loud and I'm quick with ideas. And then he kind of goes in and says, okay, if this is the idea that you like, this is how we can make this work. And then we really just kind of build on things together. Our favorite times are when we are actually writing together for our clients. So a lot of times we'll divide. I'm client facing. He doesn't want to be client facing. So he does a lot of the long form writing. But if we're doing like LinkedIn executive writing, where you go straight for a lot of executives, we'll sit there and we'll just have fun and we'll brainstorm and we'll bounce ideas back and forth, or we'll throw out crazy ideas that we're never going to use, but it's a good laugh. And then it becomes this inside joke that we bring up later. And that creative piece and the fact that we both have this entrepreneurial spirit and growth mindset makes it so much easier to work with him. And a lot of people say, oh my gosh, I would kill my spouse, blah, blah, blah. And we share a little 10 by 12 office. I'm out in our office and we share a little 10 by 12 office space. And I kind of just can't get enough of him. But I fell in love with his brain. And so he's really good looking, but I fell in love with his brain. So,
he's there in the room with you. You have to say that he's there. He's tell you that I'm good looking. No, I'm joking.
He's not in the room, but I do try to tell him from time to time how that I also think he's very attractive.
Good. That's helpful. That's helpful. No, that's good. That's really cool. Thank you for that. Like, as I said, like, I think for me, it can be like, I don't know. It's something that I'm a bit fearful of, I'd probably say, right? I just don't know. It's an unknown for me. But yeah, because we've been talking about it a little bit, and there might be some opportunities to do some stuff together. Let's see. Anyway, but it's good to have your bit of feedback there. It's interesting.
I would say my unsolicited advice is to have defined roles, to make sure you know what you're doing, she knows what she's doing, and everyone's okay with that. And if you pull them in for something that's out of their role, you make it clear, like, I need your help this one time. You say it nicer. You wordsmith it a little bit, like, hey, I'm struggling with this one little piece. Can you help me? And that's how it works. It's just really strong communication, but defined roles for sure. That's really important, because I get in trouble when I say, oh, I'll take that. And if it falls off my radar, he's like, you said you were going to take that. I say, now
I recognize that. So I'm the same as you. So, and she's the same as your husband. So it's a very similar mix, right?
Yeah. So it could really work well for you all. Try a side hustle. See what you can do.
We'll have a think. Let's see. But hey, let's get back into what you guys are doing there at Damn Smart Marketing. So what type of customers are you working with? You said tech, right?
Tech and finance customers. That's just basically what's out there right now that need content. So we do a lot of content writing. Like I said, if it has words, we write it. And it's really interesting to see how companies either have a content strategy or content buy-in from leadership. That's one of the really big things that we see. So I'll talk to people and they'll say, oh, I need to know what you can do, what your pricing is, so that I can go and sell this to my CEO or the C-level team.
Mm.
And it's kind of this idea of, oh, if they don't have buy-in, you're not going to sell it in like this. So that's always
Mm.
interesting. Those conversations are always interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I also think as well that you come across like two very different types of C levels when it comes to content. You've got the ones that like have all of the ideas and they want all of these things and just go, I want it all by tomorrow, right? But they have like thousands of ideas and you're like, holy shit, how am I going to manage all this?
Oh, yeah.
And then you've got the ones that are like, why are you even bothering me with this nonsense? Right.
Yes.
So there's
Yes.
and actually there's a third one that's like, okay, just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. I see the value in it, but then they're never available. So like,
That.
yeah,
On the head. Yes.
it's like there's never like a happy in between medium here. It's always like a struggle, right? So
Yeah.
how do you cope with that? How do you deal with that? How do you get the buy-in, etc.? Like, what's your playbook?
So usually if I'm getting buy-in, it's either someone that has a large team and they have a content team. So if I see a head of content, then I know that they have buy-in from leadership. So if I'm working with a head of content, not necessarily, and it doesn't mean that it's exclusive to that, but a CMO or a VP of marketing or a director of marketing, there's always a question as to whether they have the buy-in from leadership as to whether or not they're going to actually pursue a real content strategy and plan. And working with it, so to get buy-in, if somebody needs buy-in, I always ask to talk to whoever the decision maker is. I'd say 50-50, I get to talk to the decision maker and just kind of see what they feel about it, because not all clients are right for us. And I'm not going to push something that we are putting forth effort and someone's paying for something that they get, but they don't see the value in. And if they don't see the value in it, they won't use it. And so I don't want to waste people's budgets. I know what this economy is like, and with what people think the economy is like here, and that budgets are tightening. And I always know that marketing is the first to go. And so I'm not going to. I don't want to have to justify my existence. That's something that's been really, starting your own business, justifying your existence, and initially taking all the clients because you think you have to, whether they're a good fit for you or not, is one of the things that I learned early on. That no, you can tell people, no, this is not a good fit, or you're not ready. You're not ready for what we have to offer. And I think that that's really a fine line, and being able to call that out is really important. So that's kind of how I deal with it. I either say this is a good fit or it's not a good fit, or let's work towards this. We do a lot of trial projects. We started doing that this year, doing trial projects for clients. So instead of locking into a 3-month retainer with them, we'll do a trial project. So that way we get to see their process. They can see our process. They can still see a final deliverable, and we see how they work. So they're still getting something really valuable from us, but they're not making any kind of long-term commitment or long-term, a large financial commitment at that point.
Yeah, that's like you'll see the client in their real light, after doing something like that. That's the thing. I fully agree with that. You need to learn the hard way. So I've had my own business now for 4 years, and it's this business now. Purple Path is sort of a spin-off of what we've already been doing for a number of years already, and we've learned that the hard way. We've taken on clients just because it's like money, like and I've learned that you should never do anything just because of money, ever.
Yeah.
Like, because you'll end up fucking miserable. That's excuse my French, but it's like it's just it's yeah.
Yeah, and then it's not worth the money. You get into it, and they either need a lot of hand holding or X or Y or Z. Fill in the blank here, but it's not worth it's not worth it. So not only do you feel like you aren't making the money, I mean, you're still making that dollar figure, but if we are breaking down the value, your time and your effort is worth a lot more than what you're charging. And then you just have a headache. And that's where boundaries would come in with me and my husband, where it's, hey, we can't continue to complain about this. Usually me, he doesn't really complain a lot.
I'm similar. Like, and my wife is like that as well. She'll tell me now it's time to get rid of them, Andy, because we're talking about this company XYZ the past 2 weeks, whatever, and she's told me before like get rid of them, and I've stuck onto them because I'm like, okay, the cash is, important.
It is.
And it ended, I stuck onto them and it ended in tears. And she was like, see? I was like, yeah, I know, okay. But so it is one of those things though. It, like, if it doesn't feel right, it's not right, most likely, right? It's like if you go and buy a new pair of jeans in the shop and you try them on, they don't feel quite right, you're never going to really want to wear them when you bring
Yes,
them home.
that is a great analogy. That's a great
So
analogy.
yeah, I always think of that in like job interviews as well. If like if you're, I won't use the jeans analogy for that, but it's more like if you're seeing issues, they're going to be amplified. Like in a job interview, they're definitely going to be amplified by 100 once they get into a role, right?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
that's the thing. But yeah, no. So like I fully agree. Let's get back onto the content side of things, like because I've been looking at your LinkedIn and some of the stuff that you're talking about and so on, right? So you talk about getting to know your audience, right? So that's
Yes.
one of the things that's really important. I fully agree, but I don't think many marketers know how to know your audience. So what's your playbook? How do you get to know the audience?
Well, what I do, so I ask, but then I also look. We do a lot of research up front, which I think a lot of content shops will say, we can do this really fast for you. And I kind of set that SLA up front, that service level agreement of we do a lot on the front end. So I ask for a lot of information. I ask for any data. I ask for highest performing content, lowest performing content. I ask for podcasts, things that have either been ghost written or hopefully written by people in the company that we're writing for to really understand the brand tone and voice. And from there, you can figure out what the audience is. It also depends on the size of the company, because some companies, which we're learning that we don't want to work with as much if they don't know who their audience is, because we sell content like the execution, but we've both done content strategy, and we always end up doing a little content strategy. Let's be real, right? Like nobody knows exactly what it is. And if you
Mm.
have a good content person, if you have a good writer, they're going to weigh in. I tell people I don't stay in my lane. So I ask for everything up front. I want the full picture. And then I dive in and we look at data. We look at what works, what doesn't work, what they have tried, what they haven't tried. And when it comes to the audience, though, if somebody says, I think my audience is, I dig a little deeper. And then if they really don't know their audience and they're not willing to test something out and they're just completely tunnel vision focused on one thing, yes, this is my audience, and it probably isn't that audience,
Mm.
then I know it's not a good fit for us. And we might, like I said, do that trial project, but we probably won't pursue it past that unless throughout that process they change their mind. You have to have a growth mindset, you have to have an open mind and be willing to see what you hired us for. You hired us to do this. And if we can't test it and run with it and come back, but also if you're not measuring it, that's the other thing. We have clients that don't always measure, big companies that are not measuring, they don't have the right metrics, I'll say, the right metrics to see what's working and what's not working. So yeah, but the audience is critical. I say, what is your goal? And who is it? Like, what is your audience? Who is this for? And what have you done? And I think that that's really important. But again, it always goes back to research. If you don't have writers that are willing to research, you're working with the wrong writers. And if you have people that don't have any companies that don't have any information, for us, it's the wrong fit.
I think what you've just described there is like often the case, unfortunately, that you have a ton of writers that have no clue. They're just writing about whatever. Or let's just say that's just marketing in general. There's like they go do their own thing. They've got their own view on the world. They're not necessarily speaking with customers. They don't understand the customer base as well as a seller would do.
Yes.
Like the sellers are then going out creating their own message, creating their own content in some cases, right? Which
Yes.
is horrific. Um, and yeah, it's like I fully agree with you in that. Like you have to have the buy-in to want to get to know who your audience is, and if you change your mind on that and say actually we need to do the research here, great. If you're still like at this very like single-minded, like no, this is 100% the way I want to go, that's not going to help you grow.
No. And you brought up a good point about whether they're talking to the whether they're talking to the buyers and I ask anytime that there's an organization that has a sales team, I say, what are they saying? What are the frequently asked questions? What
Mm,
are the biggest complaints? What are the biggest positives? What do the
mm,
reviews look like? What are they saying? What do they want
mm,
to hear about? What do they want to
mm,
learn about? What don't they understand? And from
mm,
there, you can create a ton of content and refresh old content. We have one client that we write for several different audiences because they have a bunch of different groups of people throughout their organization. It's a bank, so they have ultra high net worth individuals, they have regular retail customers, they have business owners from a commercial and small business landscape. So we write things and we write, we can take the same exact topic and write two completely different articles because one has tax incentives in mind because they have a lot of money and the other really needs to budget and plan. But it's the
mm,
same product that you're trying to tell them to look into. And
mm.
I think that that's really interesting. But you have to know the audiences. You have to know them because if you don't, then you're just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that's not a good use of anyone's time or budget.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I'm glad you said spaghetti instead of another word there. Glad on that. But
I'm trying to tone it down. My children, they're playing with their toys, and sometimes they play with cars, and just in everyday language. Not every day they do this, but in everyday language, they'll just be like, "Oh, the fucking cars," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like
hilarious. Hilarious.
adult words
Hilarious.
there, adult, but they'll just be talking to themselves and rolling the cars. I'm like, what?
They
So
didn't lick it up off the ground, Donna. They didn't lick it up off the ground, as my mother would say. But I'm just as bad. Just as bad. But like, luckily, I live in a house where it's bilingual, and for whatever reason, my observation there is that curse words don't really get picked up. So there you go. So I
that's them.
yeah. So that's the trick. You just need you need to speak in two languages at home. If you can manage that, then you can probably mitigate the other issue. But
We're American. We don't do that.
okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair
So
enough.
we have to learn our language, Andy. Duh.
100%. 100%. Don't worry. I'm fully on board with that. Don't worry. But hey, look, we're right up on time now. Where's the best place for people to find you, Donna?
On LinkedIn, they can go to, I'm the slash, you know how it works, Donna Mostrom, DonnaMostrom. And
Perfect.
that'll make me
So,
write more on LinkedIn.
absolutely. I'll make sure that is shared on the bio for this. Donna, thanks so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks a million. Guys, this has been another episode of Growth Path. Donna, thanks again for coming on, and I look forward to seeing everybody again next week. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you.